Hey,
Hey,
mamas.
mamas.
Hey, mamas.
I'm Jess,
I'm Erica.
And I'm Melissa.
and today we are going to be talking about
Oh my
the
God,
wetness.
drum no, the milestones.
Milestones of the wetness.
Mama's Code. Right, so guys, did you go off by knowing it was time to potty train, or did you put it upon yourself to do it?
And yes kind of scenario. So we started, like, we bought her the potty to see so she can become familiar with that. And obviously she started like realizing when we would go to the toilet and she'll be like, oh, like looking, and I'd say, oh, estoy haciendo chichi, or I'm doing a poo, and then yo como que miraba, and she would point. So we got her own like little potty so she could familiarize herself. And we started like sitting her down every now and then, but it wasn't consistent because obviously she was still like young. And we weren't expecting too much of it. Now, when quarantine happened, we were like, this is probably the best time to kind of do it because we're at home. But by that point, obviously, she had had a couple months where she knew what the potty was. So it wasn't like, surprise, here you go. Like, from now on, you need to do your poo and wheeze it. And we realized that every time she would do something, she would enjoy like us clapping and giving her stickers. So that's kind of what we just did. We just bought her bigger stickers and made her bigger parties and just let her roam around the whole house without a nappy.
Mate, being a child, it's like parties just follow you all the time.
All the time.
I wish people clapped for me when I did a poo.
It's like everyone goes around just cheering them. Like, why can't you cheer me on to go have a nap?
Innit? Talk about equality. Stupid babies get more than us. Like we do all the hard work and they just like roaming around, sucking our souls out, and they get cheered on whilst we're like judged.
Rewarded and everything for their well behavior.
What's been something that you didn't know about this whole journey of potty training?
How long it takes and how much patience you need to have.
Do you think if you would have waited until she was a bit older, it may have been easier? Because that's kind of my point at the moment, that you know, I had a discussion with my mom about this, that she was like, oh, you need to get Leo on the potty because he's 1 now, and you know, even Jay's mom as well was like, oh yeah, like he was on the potty from young. And it's like, but I can tell that my son is not ready. Like, he's just learning to feed himself with a spoon. Like, how am I now going to ask him to control his bladder and his bowel movements? So I personally think that I'm going to wait a bit longer until I see that, okay, maybe he's a bit more ready and understanding.
I have thought about that actually. But like I said, when we decided to like get serious with it, Maya was like 19 months, I think. And she hasn't been scared of the potty. Like, she's kind of always shown good response to it. So I guess that for us was like a sign that she's probably comfortable with doing it. But definitely the patient side of it, because I always think like for her, like if she's playing and she's doing something fun and I can see her like twiddling her legs, I know that she needs to go to the toilet, and I'm like, baby, like siéntese en el potty. But I start thinking maybe she thinks if she sits in the potty, she's going to be away from her game for like two hours or whatever.
Like, they might not be able to process it like that.
Exactly.
So it might become a bit stressful for them.
Yeah. Now, like we don't sit her down. So what we basically do is at home, she knows where the potty is, and wherever I am, I'm always like, baby, here's the potty. And then when I see her like dancing around, I'll ask her like, baby, do you need to go to the potty? And if she says no, then okay. Even though I know she needs to, I let her, because it's like she needs to tell me, because obviously the last thing I want to do is for her to feel reliant that I will sit her down every time she needs to go for a wee or a poo, because I don't know when that is. She needs to tell me. Sometimes we're like before we leave for the house, I always try and sit her down before we leave. And and sometimes she won't go. But I'm like, okay, you know, when we were kids and our parents will be like, vayan al baño before we leave the house, because 5 minutes down the road you're going to ask me to use the toilet. So we always try to do that with Maya, the same thing. Like before she goes to bed, we sit her down. Sometimes she will pee, sometimes she wouldn't.
Does that not happen with your husband?
Oh, 100% with the shit, not the wee though. Ollie, I think he said come un chicle and then he has to digest it. I don't even know how this happens. Literally, I call him un pajarito because whatever he eats, he just shits out. It's like sometimes I associate like he's eating and I could just vividly imagine his digestive system of food just going down and it goes straight to his bum. Literally, it's that. It really irritates me. Like, why do you have to be like that?
Riz, I wanted to ask you quickly. Obviously, now there's 3 of you using the big toilet. It makes me so anxious when sometimes you need to go for a wee or something and then someone's in the toilet. I forgot where I was going with this.
How do we cope with it? Does it happen to us? Well, it happens to us all the time. Like Camillo, and he can vouch for this, he goes to the toilet to do a poo and then he will ask Joel, who'll be like, do you need to go to the toilet? No, daddy. Joel will be just playing or something or watching a movie. I kid you not, Camillo locks the toilet and Jojo's like, oh my God, mommy, I need to do chichi. And I'm like, George, papá, acabo de preguntarle. And then he was like, normally, if it's a wee, I allow him to use Caden's potty because now that obviously we're starting with Caden, it's a thing where I want Caden to kind of know because Jojo's small as well. Like he could pee and show Caden what it is it's for. So he could do it there. But on most occasions, he needs to do a poo. I'm not going to scoop out the potty. So yeah, so he just literally goes and knocks on Ollie's door and like Ollie's like, oh, for fuck's sake. Like,
see, that's what I'm not looking forward to, if I'm honest, because sometimes I'm like, Dan, come on, hurry up. And it's only Dan and me fighting for the toilet. And I can just imagine like Maya, like, I need to go to the toilet. Whereas right now she's got her own potty. So
yeah. And I think like now with 2 kids, so Joel goes to do a poo and Caden is like basically cheering him on. But we always have to be very vigilant with that because Caden on most occasions grabs the tissue and like just starts taking it all out. He also threw el paquete de pañitos inside the toilet whilst Jojo was pooing. So, you know, we had to put like gloves on and everything to take like the packet of pañitos out. And then it's just, and Jojo was like, Mummy, you can just clean it. And I was like, it's got your shit in it. I'm not that bad there. But yeah, it's hard. It's difficult.
Do you think it's maybe a bit easier because Kay is seeing Jojo do it, so he might be like, like, you know, put 2 and 2 together? Because obviously, like everything his big brother does, he wants to do. So I would think.
No. Caden knows, but I feel like with what Mel was saying, that you know, she introduced the potty to Maya, and she feels that maybe that helped her along the way. I introduced Kay to a potty as well very early on, and I would tell him, you know, aki chichi, aki popo, and everything that, you know, like Mel said, Caden is my shadow, so he comes toilet with me whatever time of the day it is, so he knows that you're meant to do it there. Initially, because I had read a book about, you know, potties are not always a really good thing, because then you have the transition from potty to toilet and most kids don't like it. I remember trying in the toilet first, and obviously we got the little toilet seat and I would sit him down and he wouldn't like it. So I was like, okay, let's just stop. So then we obviously introduced him to the potty. I was one of those, you know, siéntese, and like every 5 minutes I'll sit him down and he just wouldn't like it. And then that's when obviously I got Joel to always try to pee there. And then we'll clap for Joel and Joel look at us like,
I've been doing this for like 5 years now.
I'm a pro. But then we obviously like explain to him, you know, tenemos que enseñarle a Caden que this is where he goes. And then so Joel like now wants to even take the shit there. And he always brings up, he's like, oh, it's para que Caden aprenda. And I'm like, no, you go to the toilet. Sometimes he's so lazy. He's watching a movie and he's like, Mum, can you bring me the potty here so I can pee? And I'm like,
he is goals.
Like, what? No. And then he uses what we use. And he's like, but Mummy, it's just for Caden's sake. And I'm like, yeah, no. Caden doesn't need that anymore. So Caden does see him and he's very like aware of stuff, but Caden now has taken it as it's a game. So, you know, Karate is Mama Chichi. So, claro, yo salgo corriendo con él, and I sit him down, and he literally stays there for like a minute, and he stands up and he's like, ja. He didn't do anything.
Do that.
And I'm literally sitting there like, are you serious?
But see how clever they are, and then when it comes to these things, it's like they don't get it. Like, don't you? I mean, I'm not there yet, but don't you wish you could just say, Alexa, potty train my toddler or my child?
Oh yeah.
Well, I think I've got it good then, because obviously Kay is in nursery and they started, I think, 2 weeks ago. And with them, I've learned a lot of things. I think it's easier if you have like someone
doing it for you
with experience, like years of experience. So these people have like 15, 20 years of experience potty training every single kid that goes past that nursery. So yeah, all I have to basically do is just take clothes and that's it.
That is
They give me the peed clothes afterwards and I wash it, take it back, pretty much done deal. And then one day they would just be like, okay, he's not using nappy anymore, you have to bring him without a nappy. And I remember with Joel when that happened, so you guys know me, like my life consists of running. So I would sit Joel down and then we would get on the buggy, and most times he would want to walk or get on the scooter, and I was like, yeah, nah, I'm not going to risk it. I need the buggy because I need to run with you just in case you pee. But it was because, you know, like I didn't really have faith, and I feel like you get worked up about it. Like what the nursery used to say to me, like, what's the chichi going to do to the buggy? You just wash it, ija. So I kind of relaxed.
It's that thing though, no? Like, you don't really want to deal with the mess.
It's really messy. With Joel, when we were potty training just ourselves before nursery, he would always like to do a shit under the table. And it was a thing that he wouldn't want me to grab him. So I didn't want to put that stress, como que like we were talking for Melke, you know, when she's playing, she might associate, you know, oh, well, now I have to go do this, so I'm going to miss out playing. So you automatically think, oh, for them, it might become like a stressful situation. Like Joel now, he's a big boy. He knows that he does all his things in the toilet, but because he doesn't want to miss a film on Netflix that he can pause, he prefers me bringing a potty to him here. So yeah, it's a really difficult one. And I think every child, you know, does it in the moment that they're ready. And not just that, but as a parent, you need to be very aware. If your kid's constantly crying, you need to just let that go and move on to something else.
And don't expect too much of them as well, if that makes sense, because they will get it. We all got it in the end, so they will learn to use.
There's no specific age, you know, all this that, oh, well, before 2, I don't want to be rolling around with nappies. Even once they're potty trained, they will have accidents. You know, like Joel's 5 years old, and sometimes he's too excited watching TV and he starts peeing a little and he's like, oh shit, and then he runs and starts peeing along the way. And I'm like, at 5 years, he's grown ass age. I'm like, George, you need to go toilet. No. And I could see him touching his pee.
I was going to say it, and so is with everything else. Like, I think a lot of people like to go with like textbook children.
Yeah.
And they think, oh, at this time they should be doing this. And I think that adds a stress on you. And you also have people saying like, oh, when my child was that age, they already was acing this. And it's like, yeah, but every child is different. Every child has its own timeline of understanding, and the more pressure you add on them, I feel like the more it delays their development. And
well, it just adds trauma to them, because if he's always going to associate crying with a potty, why would he want to put himself in that situation?
Yeah, it's literally like we said with anything. Brushing their kids' teeth. I mean, I don't know, you know, Jojo and Kay, if they had these moments where they'll be like, they don't want to brush your teeth, and you're like, but you kind of need to. It's not an option. Like, you need to, and they're crying. Then you're thinking, but it's not hard. And so you start thinking, if I'm there forcing them, like basically holding them down, you know, they're going to be like, oh no, I don't want to do this actually.
Yeah.
So it's that fear that you might create for them.
Caden and Jojo never had issues with brushing teeth. Well, I make it fun. Like, so I sit them in the radiator. With Kay, I make it seem like he's falling. So like he'll sit there and I just take my hands away and he'll be like, oh. And he literally I'll put crema on his toothpaste and I'll start brushing, and then he asks for cream like 3 more times, and I'm like, you can't, because you're only meant to have a little bit. But he just sucks it off, and he's just like, I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Go.
And when their mouth starts to foam up.
Yeah. No, and the funny thing is with Kay, like, since we started brushing his teeth, like, desde bebecito, I used to teach him. Like, I used to grab water, put it in my mouth, and I used to be like, I used to spit. Till now that he can spit, Caden literally said, "Toma el agua," and he's like, and I'm like, what? Okay, what that's this? And then he's like, ah.
All I've got to say, guys, about this whole potty training situation is that, do you know how lucky we are to have laminated floors?
I know.
Imagine carpet.
Oh my God, you would be literally...
Imagine a poo on a carpet.
Or just on your knees.
It's fluffy. Actually, no, I can actually relate, because I had one of those furry like rugs by your bed, and Maya was sitting on the potty and she just wasn't staying still, and she kind of stood up and tipped the potty and it went all over the rug.
Did you throw it away?
I did.
Thank God. If you would have said you cleaned it,
no,
I would have been very disappointed in you.
No, I took one.
Poo particles all over your house.
No, it wasn't even poo, but I just thought I can't. It would probably, even if it doesn't smell, I would smell the smell of wee, if that makes sense.
That's like when we were potty training Stitch, that rug we used to have, the amount of times he used to pee, and even when he was potty trained, he would come in and he'll be like, "Oh my God, I want to pee on the rug." Like,
this guy, here's my toilet.
Literally just starts rubbing himself.
So we were obviously saying about having the right time of doing things with our own child, and not do it like textbook. How did we feel with the whole weaning situation? Because obviously, like, within our culture, sometimes giving foods to our babies is kind of from like quite early on.
Yeah, 3 months.
Whereas the advice, like here, and I don't know, like if in other countries actually, it's until the baby can sit up, and 6 months, I think.
Yeah.
Right? And I know if you were to do it before, a lot of people will frown upon that.
We gave Leo the red kidney soup at, I think it was at 3.5 months. And obviously because our culture are like, it makes their stomach strong, or I don't even know. And then we went on holiday, and I would always put like different tastes in his mouth when we were away, and like fruits and stuff, and like mush it up. And because at that point he was so interested in our plates, so every time we would sit down to eat, he was always like give me some, and you could tell like he was, licking his lips. And even though he couldn't sit up by himself, he could hold his head up, and he was showing interest. And I think that's why, and I must say at the beginning, like I think for the first week that I started, okay, I'm going to start introducing foods to him. And I did the whole 1 week of vegetables. I'm not even going to lie, I did that for a week. And then the second week I was like, just have frijoles con arroz. And I was just giving him everything, just because for me, it was like, I would separate the food before putting salt. I did do that for, up to like, I think 8 months, he didn't have salt. So I would take out his food before adding the salt, but I was just giving him everything from the get-go. And I just felt like hands up, I felt lazy to mush everything and prepare and like try this and try that. And I just gave everything and hoped for the best. And I remember the first time I gave him strawberries, I think I saw Mel that day, and I was like, oh, he tried strawberries today and he absolutely loved it. And Fish was like, did he not react to it? Like, it's an allergy. I was like, oh, what? Like, no, he seems fine. And then when I gave him pear, my mom and Mel was like, oh, did you boil it? Did you cook it? I was like, no, I just, like, is that what you're supposed to do? Like, I just gave him like whatever, and so far
of this,
I was just stuffing everything in his mouth. And I feel like till now, because obviously everything is new for them and they find it so exciting, he takes everything. But I know that's going to change. Hopefully it doesn't, because children, how complicated they are. But I wasn't really like strict about what I'm giving him, and what, like, following the guidelines. I wasn't really But I would say what I found stressful today is the mess around it. Like, it gives me anxiety, and it's not so much like, I don't know what it is. It stresses me out, and I know I can clean it, and I know that I have a dog that's gonna lick everything off the floor. But just the whole thing around feeding, it just puts me on edge, and I haven't been able to pinpoint what it
What,
is.
like choking wise,
No,
or
I had an experience of him choking, and I've mentioned it before. It's not that. Like, I let him do his thing, and he comes out fine, because it's also like learning how to um swallow. And the same with like mushy food. I know there's people that mush their food up to like 1, and I think
Oh
personally,
my God, yes. I saw a guy, well, I know someone personally that their child was like 3.5, 4, and they would blend the food.
and that's so bad. They need to exercise their jaw and be able to know like swallowing, and because that's just gonna
But
make them
I
prone to
think
choking.
it goes down to what we've said before as well. You have to go at the pace of your child. I think for this person, it was because the child didn't like feeling anything like in his mouth. So as a mum, we said, obviously, if you're giving your child something and they're not agreeing to it, always crying, why would you put yourself in that situation? So I think for this person, it was always a thing, like feeling like some people have like really bad gag reflex in itself. So maybe the feeling of like having to process or chew, because it wasn't even a matter of chewing, because he chewed, he would have cookies, crisps. So it wasn't that, it was just something with the food. It is bad, but again, it goes down to what's comfortable for yourself, and if you're willing to do it, then who are we to judge?
And I guess like at that point you kind of stress about, well, they're not eating, so the only way to have the the only, because I know I went through that a couple of months ago, that he just wasn't taking anything. Like, he would just spit everything out, and I thought maybe he's not hungry, so I would move around like the times I would give him food, and then I had to resort to blending everything for that week. And it was the only way he would eat. So at least I knew, okay, he's eating something, even if it was 2-3 teaspoons, but at least I know, okay, rather than seeing just him spitting everything out. So yeah, I guess I've
got a cousin that also does that. Her daughter's 5, and like she eats normally, but whatever she doesn't eat, because it's one of them picky childs, she'll just blend the food, put it in a tetero, and then make her eat it. Like we say, we do things for our sanities, because as a mom, we always stress, oh my God, they're not eating. Is the food not nice? And you start putting pressure on yourself, and you also have to kind of see the pros and cons on it, because if you're always offering your child a different type of food, what is that child going to grow up to think? Oh, I live in a restaurant, I get the food I want. So in the long run, it's going to affect you, because when this child turns 5, 6, 7, and you give him a specific food, he's going to be like, no, I don't want that. Why? Because you've offered this in the past. Oh, you didn't like this? Okay, can I provide this and this?
Oh my God,
so you always have to think long term with these stuff.
live by that.
And our parents never did that to us.
No, it was like literally, oh, I don't like that. Se lo come.
Why? Okay, you don't want to eat what's here. I'm not going to give you a snack. Just wait, Obviously, I'm not going to starve my child. But if in that hour he doesn't want to eat, I will try again in maybe 45 minutes. Maybe work up his appetite, get him running around, and then try again. But it's not like, and again, this is just us, that why am I going to offer an alternative or cook another plate, so that, because like you're saying, like, he's going to come to a point where like, oh no, I don't want that, so my mom's going to go and make me something else.
And it also makes you shit. You feel shit, because yes, everyone's entitled to do what they feel comfortable with, and by all means, it's fine. If you want to offer your child a different set of food, it's absolutely fine. No one's saying it's wrong. However, you need to see the repercussions that this will encounter in the future. Your child is going to simulate, okay, I don't like something, so I get what I want. So then this draws into, how is this person's behavior going to be when they're a bit older? If they can manipulate you into thinking you need to provide something else right now at this little age, I can't bear to imagine, you know, what they're going to be like when they're older.
And it's all a balance, because then what if they get used to just eating what's at home?
Yeah.
100%. What if you die and you don't have mum's cooking, so you're never going to eat again?
And it happens, and
that's interesting you say that, actually, because sometimes as well, like, you get so caught up in, like, obviously you want to give your children the best with everything, like the best food, so it be most of the time it's home cooked meals. But let's say when you go out, if you need to like grab like a quick sandwich, or you're gonna go eat out in a restaurant or whatever, and then your child all of a sudden doesn't want to eat that, you're like, damn, like, obviously
or you bringing out a container
of like home
in a restaurant, and the restaurant having to tell you, sorry, you can't eat your own food here.
And do you know how much stress that brings on you as a parent? Because you know your child's not going to eat, and it's like your child will probably be like, oh fine, I'll just wait until I get home. But you as a mom will be like, oh my god, my child's not eating. And like,
no, and I think within our culture, we know our mums and aunties, they will literally be like, why is he not eating? Like, why have you not taught this child to eat Colombian food? Why is he just eating X, Y, and Z? Imagine family gatherings and your child eats nothing.
I mean, fair enough if they're like babies. Oh
no, that's fine. But I'm talking more like
as well,
like growing up, and then you're still encouraging this behavior, because at some point you're gonna have to detach.
Because then what about when you leave home?
Because until when is it okay for you to roll up to a restaurant with a container of homemade food, and it's specifically what they want to eat?
Yeah, it's a tough one, actually. You know, all of these things actually scare me, because we're still part of the journey.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like they all love food at the moment.
Exactly. Thankfully, we've all had like good eaters, and our kids, you know, they can go through moments and whatever, but technically they're really good eating, and we can all gather around, and it's like, oh well, basically just keep an eye that no one chokes. But
I'm still waiting for the moment that my children don't want to eat.
I mean, everyone will change taste, and one, you know, really random, Maya loves onions. Like, she will literally grab an onion and she will eat it. And I don't know where this happened. She was really small. We were in America, and my cousin gave her an onion, like, and she was just eating this with no teeth, because she was 10 months then and her teeth had just started to come out, and she loved it. And since, but you know, she can turn 5 and then all of a sudden she doesn't want to eat onion, and I'll be like, but when you were like 1 and 2 and 3, you would demolish it. But
Caden will literally open the fridge and grab, you know, the big ass peppers, and he would just sit there and eat them. And Kelly, like, my sister was here, and like, she was just so amazed. She was like, oh, it's so nice that he eats all these vegetables. And then she told me to offer, because he has that as a snack. So literally, I will cut peppers for him and he would happily eat them. So she was like, does Jojo like them? And I was like, I don't think so. And I remember, I don't know if I sent you guys the video. I gave a piece to Joel, and I was like, Joel, have some. And then he bit it, the face that his kid made. And then you could see, and Joel cried.
Bless him.
He was crying, and then you could just see, like, I need to send you the video, because Caden was just in the background, like, you could just see him eating. And then Caden was like, Jojo, and I was like, Caden, don't laugh at your brother.
Do you know what it might be? That, remember when you went into labour and you wanted green tomatoes?
Green tomatoes, yeah.
And I remember your sister was texting us, and she was like, I might just get her a green pepper. Maybe I'll confuse her. So maybe it was to do with that.
Maybe. You can't tell me that, you know, your kid has been growing up eating frijoles, and then all of a sudden it hits a certain age where it's like, I don't like frijoles. This is where it kind of goes wrong for you. Because if you're gonna do food, and let's say for us that, you know, we work and stuff, you get home to make a meal and then your child turns around and says, I don't like that. That's hurtful. And it happened to me, you guys know him with his cuento de papitas, pollo, ketchup and jugo. So, and sometimes I give him sopa. He will eat it. He likes sopa, but in his brain, he's kind of like manufactured that I'm a papita chicken ketchup maker, because that's all apparently I offer him. And I've never offered him that, only when I make like chuleta and stuff. So when he has said that to me, Like, we sit down with him and we explain to him, we're like, baby, like, you can't pick and choose what you're eating. And imagine having like a stressful day at work, coming home and your kid's like, well, I didn't ask for that. And guys know that I'm very strict with Jojo. So if that's a kid that, eats what he gets, I can't bear to imagine if I offered him options. Oh no, baby, you don't want to eat that? Okay, don't worry, don't eat that. I'll make you this. That would just put more strain onto myself.
Mama, I love you. Also, touching on like our parents and like our backgrounds, have you guys experienced any allergy reactions with the kids?
I haven't. No.
I would like to do an allergy test though.
What, for yourself or for?
No, for the kids.
Yeah.
Just so you know, because like whenever you like take them to the hospital and stuff, like we talk about foods, but they could be allergic to other things, like cotton. They could be allergic to medicines. So when you take them to a hospital and you are asked as a parent, is your child allergic to anything, and you're just standing there, I don't know, I just got given this child. Like, you tell me.
How about, because with allergies, like they can develop after, because
after 4.
Yeah, I remember I didn't have any allergies, and then once, I can't remember what I was in the hospital for, and I got given penicillin. The way my body reacted to this thing.
Do you remember with the salmon?
Yeah, and salmon as well. Yeah, me raspera. It was the weirdest thing, and I didn't have a problem with any of these things before. Obviously, it's not that I'm taking penicillin all the time, but when I was given antibiotics, it was okay. And then all of a sudden now I'm taking it and I'm brotándome everywhere.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden now I'm allergic to penicillin, and I know that it can get worse sometimes with age, or it can just pop up every now and then. So that's a good point, maybe, about doing an allergy test, just so you know.
Yeah. Well, I remember with Jojo, once he got like a rash, and I thought he was allergic to something, but I couldn't really like pinpoint what it was. And I remember taking him to the hospital, not to the hospital, to the GP, and they said it was like kind of chicken pox, but this was not chicken pox. That GP should get fired. I think I did a better job at researching what it is he had. But yeah, so and I did, and I remember researching if I could do an allergy test on him, but it said it was only after 4 years old, I think it was, because obviously their bodies are more like they've been exposed to much more in order for you to get like a better result. So yeah, and not long ago, because I think Jojo might have hay fever, and especially if you as a parent have hay fever, that's something very easily that passes on. So I have a feeling he has hay fever, but this is just like me working myself up already.
What I would say about, for anyone, starting their weaning journey and stuff, I think it can be scary in those terms, because obviously you don't know what your child is going to react to. And I would say is that even if you're like maybe like us, that we just fed our children everything, is at least keep in mind what you've given them that day, in case they do come up with a reaction. You can at least go back and try and pinpoint, okay, they've not had this before, or and I think that's why they recommend like just trying one vegetable, one fruit a day, and then you start mixing it and stuff. I remember my mom used to say she was going to give Leo honey, and I looked at her and I was like, I don't think he can have honey. I think you have to wait until they're 1. And she looked at me and she was like, that's the only thing that I've kind of like panicked about, because I've heard it from so many people that don't give them raw honey, because I don't even know why.
They can get some disease out of it, something like that. I remember with that same thing, Moo, because when Joel he had, I think it was bronchitis, and my mum kept saying you have to give him honey and like mix it with like all them things, home remedies, and I would always be like, Mom, I can't give him honey yet. He has to be one. And Mom would be like, "Qué ridícula es esta, por Dios!" Like, I've raised 2 grown-ass girls, and you guys are still alive. I'm sure he's gonna survive. And I was like, no, I don't think we can give him honey. And I was very adamant that we could not.
Literally.
And I remember researching, and I would show her, and she was like, esa mierda yo no la entiendo. My mom did not give 2 fucks though. She would like, and I think it was the same with like the food. For me, it was very hard. Like, I wanted to, not give Joel sal and everything, but because I lived with my mom, she made all the food, and then she would literally embuttirle toda la comida Joel en la boca, and he loved it. And like, I mean, he's pretty healthy. Same with Kay. Like with Kay, I kind of took on, because obviously we were living alone, so I did do, you know, up until 6 months that we went Colombia, and in Colombia I had no control because all the families would just take him, and I kind of was a bit anxious about it all. And then Ollie sat me down and was like, Erica, do you not remember that with Joel, you know, your mom used to give him toda la comida, he's fine, like, us, like. And the thing is, the family in Colombia, because we sat down once to talk about it, and they were like, in Colombia we can't afford to, let me just take this out, and no.
And I think it's because you put so much thought in it and you do so much reading, which is again why
but I can see where it can be insensitive, because obviously everyone does things differently, and like,
and everything has different anxiety.
Yeah, no, and it's that thing where you kind of say, because you research so much and you kind of want to do everything as is written down, you kind of put that pressure on yourself. Whereas if you kind of just relax and just go with the flow. Like, I remember I have a friend that she told me, she was like, for her first child, she would literally make tons of baby food and like put it in the freezer. With her second child, since she's been born, like, she just eats whatever they eat. If they have pizza, she has pizza. She's like, I just can't be bothered anymore. I put too much effort into all this bullshit, and now she eats whatever she wants.
I'm going to be honest with you, I tried it perfectly for 1 week, and then I just couldn't be bothered. Like,
what's perfectly anyways?
Well, by the book is perfect.
Well, you know, introduce them one thing at a time, blending. Again, it goes down to what we've always said. It's how you think is best. That you can't go with, it's just that Google told me that I had to do it like this, and you know, Susan from babieschat.net told me that, no, she's done it like this. We can't really go with it. And I think loads of mothers fall under that category, that we research so much deep into how to do certain things that we automatically put that pressure on ourselves, and we're like, yeah, we're doing it wrong. And you again, automatically set yourself up for failure, basically.
And it goes down as well on the baby, because
exactly.
Like, I remember one of the first times we gave Maya broccoli, we gave it to her in the evening. Now, when I eat broccoli, I get really gassy. Bless her. She was so gassy she couldn't sleep. And I remember that day I was like, right, so I know that my kid, when she eats broccoli, she's get really gassy, so I'm going to try and not give it to her right now in the evenings. I'll give it to her for lunchtime and I'll take it from there. Now she's fine. Of course, when you start giving them food, their body starts like learning to digest it and process it. So for her, it was too much.
Puppy. Good girl. But moving from this, sleep progressions, their body clock is maturing, so it's changing to their age and to what they need to be sleeping now. So that's why you will notice that their sleep will go really rubbish for like a week, 2 weeks. Some children even go for it for a month. But then when they come out of it, they're like sleeping longer, their naps are better, they go back to like their times, and
the transition from baby sleep to like more adult like sleep of the different stages.
Yeah.
For us today, that's probably been the most hardest regression for Maya, was that 4-month sleep regression. That was horrible. We went from having her sleeping amazing, and I remember we were on holiday and she was amazing, literally amazing, and we came back, and I'm not lying, like 2 days later, all hell broke loose and the regression started, and I was like,
did you know about the regressions?
I remember reading about it, and I remember that it was at that point, but we didn't have any, like, of course there's going to be sleepless nights and sleepless weeks or whatever, but that for us, that first regression for us was the one that hit us the most. And of course since then she's had regressions, but not as bad as the 4-month one. Like, it was bad, everything just went tits up for a good solid, I would say 2-3 weeks. It was just horrible.
Don't you just hate it when like you get sold this dream from your baby that they're really good sleepers, and then you finally think, oh yes, they've got it, the one thing I wanted them to kind of like adjust to, sleep, and then here comes Mr. Sleep Regression, fuck shits up.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, we call it regression, but in reality they're progressing to a different mental.
Like they're jumping from level to level.
Exactly, so it's more of a progression, really. But at that point, for us, we're running
We're
on
hating
no
it.
sleep. They're running on.
But it's called sleep regression because they're not sleeping.
Yes.
So they're going back from being good sleepers to not good sleepers. So basically, they're going back to newborn ages.
Yeah, and that's frustrating when they're looking
Very.
at you, why can't I sleep? And you're like, I don't know why you can't sleep. Like, please let me sellotape your eyes shut.
No, and when they're very naggy, so they cry, and you're like, what's wrong?
I remember saying to Grace, like, why is my child waking up every 45 minutes? Or I think once she was like, how are you, Moo? And I was like, I've had 45 minutes sleep. Like, physically, that's what I had because I was up half an hour, and I was just feeding, like, literally, I was a cow attached to these machines all night.
Oh.
And I hated it. And the whole of November and December, it lasted 7 bloody weeks. And then come January, it was like, honestly, the good thing to come out of 2020 was that he went to sleep in. Like, one night I just put him down and he slept the whole night. Like, he slept 11 hours straight.
Yeah, and I think, what doesn't help as well? If you have, like, relatively good sleepers, when they do go through these moments where you're so used to having good sleep, it's like someone slapping you into reality, and then you forget how you coped, let's say at the beginning, waking up with newborn sleep. You dealt with it then, and now all of a sudden you're like, damn, we're back here again.
And you think it gets better.
Oh, Erica, please. Hush. Darling, please do not.
Right, I laugh every time I hear someone says, like, trying to, like, pet talk a parent. Don't worry, it gets better.
I don't know why people say this, though.
Gets better for who? The child? Because it doesn't get better for me, mate. Joel is nearly 6 and he's waking up at 6 a.m. because apparently it's morning now. And I'm like, but it doesn't matter. I literally had to buy him an alarm clock to tell him he could only come out of his room at 8. When this shows 8, you can come out. And literally, my guy walks out with a clock like, look, it's 8. But you could see he's been awake for so long.
I might try that, actually. Not now, but...
And I think it's such a brilliant idea because at that stage, like say at Joel's age, he now understands. And it's also teaching them the time, teaching them numbers. And it's like, you're getting an extra bit of a lion, and just don't come to me until that clock says whatever time you've given it.
Yeah, the only good thing is Joel's now making his own breakfast, so he can make his toast.
See, you're living like... See, it does get better.
Yeah, no, a little bit. And Caden gets out of the room, so he opens the door and he just goes looking for Joel. And even if that, because I'm not going to say that Joel wakes up every single day. There's times where he does have a lay in and he will sleep. And then that's when I start panicking because I'm like, where's this child that wakes up so early? Like, why is he not waking up? Now that he's kind of like, he can make his own, like he will serve his cornflakes with milk and stuff. The other day, I got up and he was like, Mom, I think you need to go get more milk. And I was like, why? He was like, I finished it. I had some cereal. And I was like, oh. And he was like, yeah, there was none left over for Caden, so I couldn't give him some.
Oh my God, does he make him breakfast as well? Oh
yeah,
my God.
he literally makes breakfast. So they just literally, we come in and Joel obviously turns the TV on and puts muñequitos on. So they just like sleep on the sofa together
man.
and have a breakfast snack that we call it until we wake up. So in that sense it does get better, but it is hard because you have to work them up to that moment.
Yeah, I think it's always we've said this many times, there's always a positive to changes and to the phases, and it's always a phase, like now they're doing this, but we've moved on from this, so now this is better, but now we're learning about this situation, and it's just a learning curve all the time, and I think whatever parent is hearing this is like, just ease off a bit, know that it's going to change, but it doesn't mean it's going to 100% be better. Mum's code out. I've got one last question actually, before we wrap this up. Did you find it hard transitioning Jojo to a bed?
Yes, this is a very good point actually.
To kicking him out of the room?
When we transitioned him, I didn't put him straight into his own room. So what I did was, which probably was wrong because I got told it was wrong, I just bought the big boy bed and I put it in the room with us. So our bed was like on one side and his bed was on the other side, so kind of giving him his own space as well. And yeah, we just let him sleep there. I think for us, where we went wrong was that I was very attached to Joel and I didn't want to let go of him. But Ollie did say, you know, we got to move him to his room. He's got it. Why not make use of it? And it was only until I got pregnant that obviously the nursery started telling us, if you do it too late, he's going to automatically interlink that you're kicking him up because a new baby's coming in. You know, we read a story to him about like him and his big boy room. With Joel, it's always been a thing where, and this is something I enjoy doing, and I know we've spoken about this before, every mum does things differently with their child in order like to put them to sleep. This is just a phase that is just going to go and die down soon because he's not going to want me to lay down with him. I enjoy doing that, and he also finds comfort in it. So at the beginning, obviously, whether it was Ollie or myself, we would go in there, we'd read him a story and just like cuddle him until he like was fast asleep. Now, like there's times I'll just read a story and I'll be like, I'm going to go watch TV because I've had enough of you. But there is times where, you know, you just kind of like, maybe you've like told him off for something stupid and you just kind of want to make up for it in the night.
You hold them that bit longer.
Yeah. And I know it's just going to be a phase because he's going to turn into like a proper big boy and he's going to be too cool for mum to lay with him. So if I can, you know, hold on to that thing a little bit longer, then why not? But it was I think the transition from our room to his room, it wasn't that hard. Like the only thing that was hard was because él tenía una baranda, so I don't know how you say that in English.
Bars.
Ollie had the fantastic idea of taking it off because apparently he was a big boy now. And I was like, no, like just leave it on there. Like he's still not used to it. He's going to be by himself. And I remember the first night he dropped off the bed.
Oh no.
And then he knocked on our door and Ollie opened the door and he was like, Daddy, I've just dropped off my bed.
Oh.
Ollie felt so bad because I literally looked at him and I was like, I told you we should have left it on.
Mama, I love you. It doesn't matter like whether they're small, like, you know, going through the weaning or the potty training or the starting school. When you go through these leaps, it's a celebration for them and it's just to encourage them to, you know, because it can be scary for them.
I remember this one time he said, can you read me a book, please, for bedtime? And I said, yeah, of course, baby. And then 6 stories later, we were still there.
And I had to go into the room and like, why are you letting him manipulate you? She's like, oh, but he just keeps asking for more. And I'm like, yeah, he's not going to let you go.
Yeah, but I'm not going to say no to him. He was like, okay, ti amo, one more. I was like, okay, baby, one more. Okay, ti amo, one more. So, you know, when like Jay's standing at the door like, baby, you know, like, we're going home now. I was like, oh yeah, but he needs one more story.
Or I remember him always telling you guys, are you guys going to sleep with me today? And I'm like, no, but why? I've got space in my bed.
Oh, but guys, let's wrap this up. Golden tip.
We've touched upon it throughout the whole episode. It's just no matter what milestone they're going through, to always praise your children, because it's a change for them as it is a change for you. And whilst it can be a rocky time, praising them is always a good sign, and having patience with them, because eventually they'll learn it and eventually they'll be 5, 6, 7 years old, like Erica was saying, and then they don't want hugs or cuddles with mummy and daddy anymore in bed, and your kids grown up. So yeah, make the most of the milestones and embrace them because they're beautiful.
And reflect on the changes.
It is hard. It's not a walk in the park, but seeing where you started to where you're going and where you're at, it's just so amazing looking back at, you know, how this little human being that you guys made is now this huge person. It's just beautiful.
Mama's Code out. Mwah.
Mama's Code.